Hi everyone, welcome along to week two. We're here with some guest lecturers, Kirsten and Paul from Arup, who'll be talking to you about road hierarchy. I'll just hand over to them.
Welcome everyone. My name is Paul Carter, as James has mentioned, and today, along with my colleague Kirsten Land, we'll be talking to you about the topic of road hierarchy. So a bit of an overview of the structure of the session. We'll talk a little bit more about who we actually are and our journey to date, and I guess the idea being that you could understand a little bit more about what your journey might look like after you were to finish university. We'll then give a little bit more of an overview about Arup, which is the company that we work for, to give a bit more context there. Kirsten will then outline some history and the evolution of the topic of road hierarchy in particular. I'll then talk through these concepts in practice using an example project, which is the Streamlining Hoddle Street project. Finally, we'll wrap up and provide some details and some links for some further information that you might require. So a little bit more about me. I finished study in 2003 before my first job, which was actually working for a company called Traffics Group as a traffic engineer, and that was lots of nuts and bolts traffic engineering, so transport impact assessments, local area traffic management studies, those types of things. The next role after that was actually working in local government for the city of Whitehorse, where I worked there for a few years. And the types of projects, I guess, changed. There's some more strategies, as you can see there on the right-hand side, as well as a much more focus on interacting with the community. And it was a really strong reminder, which probably sticks to me 10 years after the fact, that what we're actually doing in transport is about people. I then made a move to Arup, so that was about 11 years ago now, where the scale and range of projects changed significantly. So a lot about master plans, station design, a lot of work for airports and major road corridors. In parallel to that, I was studying, so doing the Masters of Traffic through Monash University, which I finished up there a few years back now. I guess I continued on that process of education and professional development through CILTA, achieving my Certified Transport Planner back there in 2014. Over that time, I guess the types of projects that I've worked on has evolved and probably tended more towards the earlier stages of project development, particularly in infrastructure planning. So a lot of work in business cases and understanding really what makes good projects. And the Streamlining Hoddle Street business case there that you can see is one that I'll talk through a little bit later on today. A little bit more study, which was actually through Arup, partnered up with Boston University. It was a course called Navigating Urban Influence and Power. It was really about understanding about how decisions are made within cities, and then particularly how you would actually apply that to the work that we do in infrastructure planning, for example. My role today is actually leading the transport planning team within Victoria and South Australia, which is a combination of skills, so rail planning, pedestrian planning, transport engineering, airport planning, and strategic modelling or strategic planning. And so a real diverse mix of different parts of the transport planning spectrum. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight about who I am. In person, we'll be happy to take more questions around that. I'll now pass you over to Kirsten to talk a little bit more about her journey today.
Thanks, Paul. So I started my engineering career, I guess, in Queensland with a civil engineering degree at the University of Queensland. Once I completed that, I actually started off as a structural engineer, and that was based around the testing and investigative assessment of different structures and bridges. While I was doing that, I started some part-time study in urban and regional planning, and that was just to help me move into more of the transport planning space where I'd found I had an interest in. Following that, that's when I joined Arup in the Brisbane office as a transport engineer. And a lot of the projects I was involved in there were council-related assessments, as well as working on the Brisbane Airport New Parallel Runway project, an environmental impact statement, so all of the traffic assessment related to that. I was then lucky enough to transfer across with Arup to London for a couple of years, and so that gave me an opportunity to work on a number of different projects located within both the UK and also across Europe. One of the bigger projects I worked on while I was over there was the 2012 London Olympic Route Network, which was the strategic transport corridor and network that allowed the movement of the competitors and family to be successful throughout the city, so that they could get to what they needed to on time. I then returned back to Brisbane as a senior transport engineer, and when I returned, I ended up doing a secondment with the Public Transport Authority in Brisbane, so kind of saw things from the other side of the fence, really. I took a little career break and then moved down to Arup, Melbourne, where I was doing a lot of work on airport projects initially, so a number of different projects out at Melbourne Airport as well as Auckland Airport, and then have been quite heavily involved in the level crossing removal projects. Similar to Paul, I attended the Navigating Urban Power and Influence course with Boston University, and then also became a certified transport planner with CILTA and an associate a couple of years ago. And I'm currently actually predominantly located in a project office to do with Melbourne Metro, and sort of have been for the last year or two, so that's quite exciting. I'll just go on now to talk a little bit about Arup. So that's the company that we're both coming from. So Arup is a global multidisciplinary engineering and design company, which is owned by its employees. So this slide here just shows a word cloud of the key speech, which was presented by the founder and details the company's values. So from this, you can see that there's high importance put on quality, our staff, and also humanity, and those continue to be important to us today. Just a little bit about the history. So Ove Arup founded the company in 1946, and interestingly, he had a very keen interest with a blend of philosophy, engineering, and architecture. So again, referring back to his key speech, but a lot of the principles that he talked about in that we still find very prominent to our work now. In particular, the holistic approach to design. So he saw a very big importance in the collaboration of many different people in different disciplines, particularly engineering and architecture. Also humane working and doing socially useful work. Lastly, at the moment, Arup has about 400 or probably a bit over 400 staff that are located in Melbourne, and we have about 13,000 employees globally. We're actually split across 3 different practices within the office, so focus around buildings, infrastructure, and consulting. And these look at the 4 strategic markets that are shown there: transport, cities, water, and energy. I guess broadly within the Arup team, we have a mix of designers, engineers, planners, and a variety of consultants. And on most of our projects, we have a combination of all of those working on them. So it brings a bunch of different creative ideas as well as passions to that.